Seahawks fans, wherever you may be. Welcome back for another edition of the Seahawks Playbook podcast. Join your host, Bill Alvstad, and co-host, sports writer and football analyst Keith Myers as we talk Seahawks football. Seahawks fans, welcome back to another edition of the Seahawks Playbook podcast. I'm your host, Bill Alvstad, sitting down with Keith Myers, co-host Keith Myers. Welcome into the show, Keith. It's going to be a fun little show. We're talking about throwing out our old expectations, our old schedule, and kind of reinventing the team, just as the team is reinvented. We're 5-3. The old schedule, the old predictions were completely wrong and need to be thrown out and blown up. And we are going to now go forward and repredict the rest of the season. So it should be a fun show. Welcome in, man.
Yeah, this will be a fun show. Obviously, we go back to our original predictions. You and I both had the team at 5 wins. We looked at this. We didn't see a path to more because of we thought it was too much to expect the rookie offensive lineman to be really good early in the season. And, Geno Smith's track record for his entire career was underwhelming, we'll go with as an adjective. And we were just, how is this team going to score points? And you and I could not have been more wrong. Yes. They're at 5 wins right now. They've won 3 straight, and they've won all of them by at least 2 touchdowns. And they've looked absolutely dominant in all 3 of them. And 2 of these last 2 have been against good football teams in the Giants and Chargers. So they are dominating good teams right now. And I'm all here for it. Like, I'm never one to be like, rooting so that I look good, in my prediction. I don't care. I'm a fan. I want them to win every game. And I tried to be honest with my predictions, and I was wrong. Who cares? This team is fun. They are fun to watch, and not just because they're winning. They're just fun to watch. Even when they lost, like to Atlanta, they were fun. It was a fun game. I love the way they play.
Yeah, it's just crazy. I mean, Pete Carroll just has done a masterful job, I would say, and John Schneider. The entire offseason, they changed directions with the defensive coordinator in Ken Norton Jr. Let him go. Brought in Clint Hurt. And we've talked about this before, Sean Desai, and some of the other guys back there. And we went into the season thinking that the defense was going to be kind of better than last year, ready to kind of go right out of the gate, new scheme, new weapons, more team speed. And they were going to have a few holes, but more or less the defense is going to be way ahead of the offense.
That was wrong.
That was wrong.
Yeah.
Until the last 3 weeks.
The offense started out great. The defense started out just historically bad. Yeah. They made some adjustments, not a couple of personnel adjustments. But really they made a scheme adjustment. They altered the way in which what they were asking the defensive linemen to play and what they were doing, their responsibilities. And the results have been phenomenal. They've gone from being the 31st ranked team to being 19th to now being 12th. And that's
just the last 3 weeks.
Yeah. And they're 12th. They're the 12th best defense. Despite the fact for the first 4 weeks, they couldn't stop anyone. They were just giving up yards left and right. It points, didn't matter. Right? They just couldn't. The defense couldn't get off the field. They couldn't stop the other teams from scoring.
They barely beat the Lions.
Yeah, they gave up 45 points. They gave up 45 points to the Lions and won, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, this was not a good football team on defense.
They've held the last 3 opponents, Keith, to 37 combined points. And some of those were gimmies. Some of those, special teams gave away points. Sometimes our offense, had a turnover and gave away opportunities.
Yep. Lockett fumbled the ball on the 2-yard line this last week. That turned into a touchdown. You had the safety that
Ken Walker had. Yep.
Yep. And then you had, 2 different plays that turned out disastrous by our punter. And that led to 14 other points. I mean, that's not on the defense. None of those points are on the defense.
Yeah.
Those points are on special teams, and really,
I mean, we really held Arizona to a couple field goals. And you could say the same thing about the Chargers.
We held the Giants to a couple field goals.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all the defense gave up.
Right. The the touchdown after the Lockett fumble was a 2-yard run by Barkley. I mean, that was a gimme.
Mm-hmm.
So it's crazy. And we can't say enough about the offense. You can say all that about the defense. That's awesome. But the offense is also 6th overall in DVOA.
The difference is that the offense has been good
throughout.
I mean, they played a half a good football in the opening week. They didn't really play well in week 2, but starting in week 3, the offense has just been good. It's just been straight up good. And they run the ball well. They complete passes at a very high rate. They get first downs. They score a lot of points. I mean, there's just nothing inefficient about Seattle's offense. Maybe some third down conversions, but when they're clicking, they don't even get third downs very often. They're getting the yards on second down. So it's been a year where everything has just exceeded expectations.
Yes.
Maybe not the defense for the first 4 weeks, but since then they have.
So I made a thing.
You made a thing. So
it shows our expectations.
Yes, it is our original expectations from the original schedule that we had.
Yeah.
And when I click this little button here, it blows up. There it goes. So there's our predictions that we made before the season start. Yeah. They have been detonated so that way we can come up with some new expectations.
Yes,
and new predictions.
Yeah. So in the green boxes are our original predictions. Now you did a little better than I did the first 8 weeks for sure, in coming away with at least 3 wins. I've only got 2, and then the actual win totals on the far right column,
which is 5,
which is 5 and 3. So what we thought we'd do is we'd kind of go through this and go through each game and talk about what our revised expectation is now, where we think this team is going to go based on our current knowledge, as well as other teams and how they're performing as well. And kind of where we see the team. When we haven't done this exercise, like neither one of us has gone through and looked at this schedule very closely here. And so we're kind of going to go through it live and see where we end up. And maybe there's some surprises. I don't know.
Well, there are some teams here that aren't as good as we anticipated them to be, like the Buccaneers here in a couple of weeks, and the Rams, and specifically maybe the Raiders. And then there are some teams that are better than we expected, like the Giants, who the Seahawks just played, and the Jets, both of which are better than advertised because, well, we're so used to them being doormats of the NFL that when they're not, it's surprising. And they're not this year. Both are playing good football. So, yeah.
The interesting thing for me, is the way that we started the year, is that the question for Geno Smith at the beginning of the year was, can you play league average football and not turn the ball over? And then after a few weeks, it was, you've strung a few games together where you've played above expectations, but can you keep it going? And then it was like, well, can you lead a game-winning drive and put a team away? Well, he's done all of that.
The only thing he hasn't done is take possession of the ball with like a minute 58 left to play, 1 timeout, and you've got 80 yards and you need a touchdown.
But I feel like that, it is just kind of takes care of itself. I mean, but we haven't been in those situations. And it hasn't been his fault. I mean, we've just been a better team. And
we were in that situation against the Falcons, and we were in that situation against the Saints. and those games didn't go the way that they could have if he had been able to perform them. But it wasn't just on Geno. Like let's make sure that's clear. But at the same time, like these last 3 games, you're not in that situation if you're blowing a team out because you're you're just scoring and scoring and scoring.
The last 3 games, Seattle's allowed, like Arizona's running backs had 44 yards on 18 carries. The Chargers had 31 yards on 12 rushes. New York had 58 yards on 22 carries. Seattle was allowing 6 yards a carry in September. The last 3 games, it's been 2.6 yards rushing, 113 yards on 52 carries.
What a turnaround. And the Giants were so good at running the ball. They were running the ball against anyone. They were running the ball whenever they wanted to. Saquon Barkley was looking like just a renewed player and I probably will from here on out, go back to playing excellent football, but the Seahawks shut him down and that was fun.
The other thing Seattle's doing is they're really focusing on stopping the run and third down conversions against teams. So you take a look at Arizona. Arizona was had 13 of their 16 third downs with 5 or more yards to gain. Cardinals had 3 third down and 10s, 3 third and 19 pluses. Finished 4 of 16 on third down. Kyler Murray was sacked 6 times. Chargers were 5 for 15 on third down. And he was sacked 3 times and hit 8 times. The Giants were 6 for 16 on third down. So it's just been
with 5 sacks.
With 5 sacks, right? And so and hit him 8 times, in addition. So and we're forcing fumbles. It's like this is the 7th time in 8 games the Seahawks have forced at least 2 turnovers. So we're winning the turnover battles. We're winning those third down battles as well, and that's made a huge difference on this defense. Which brings me to the current schedule. Like how are we? Yeah, let's get rid of that old one, and let's get to the new one.
You gave me the button to click that makes that sound effect that blows the schedule up, and I just want to keep pressing it. But let's get to the new schedule and let's get this show moving. This week they play on the road against Arizona. We actually have our preview show coming out later this week. We're supposed to do predictions then, but because of the format of this show, we have to do that prediction now. Where do you have, or what do you have going down when Seattle plays the Cardinals this week?
I'm actually going to this game, and it'll be a fun game to see in person. And I'm expecting more of the same for the Seahawks. The Cardinals just have not been playing well this year. They've got some issues, some problems. I would say, you're taking a look at a team where they're lopsided on their point differential. They're not able to really stop anybody. They're one of the worst defenses in the league. They've allowed over 200 points so far this season, or it's 210 points allowed.
It's a lot of points.
It's a lot of points. Just to give you some perspective, the Seahawks have also allowed 200 or 199.
And that's with the Seahawks being historically bad for the first 4 weeks.
Right. So the Cardinals are really pretty bad as well, but they're not improving like the Seahawks are. And I just can think that Geno and company on the offensive side of the ball, they don't really have an answer for Ken Walker. I'm thinking a win here. I don't know what the score is yet. I haven't gotten that far, but we'll get to that.
I also have this down as a win for Seattle. Arizona's offense has looked better since Nuke Hopkins came back from his suspension. After they played Seattle. They played on Thursday night and ran up the score and had a nice win. But then they came back this last week and kind of laid an egg again, and that was on 10 days rest. And so. Like I said, the offense has been better. The defense hasn't been. And even with all that extra rest and time to prepare, they just didn't look good. And I just think that the way Seattle is playing right now, Kyler Murray is going to have to play hero ball to keep them in this because the offense is going to score. The defense is going to shut down the run. They're going to be able to cover and make Kyler Murray's life hard. And if he doesn't come out with a few like just miraculous plays, I don't think they can hang with Seattle. So I also have that as a win.
I like to see Mike Jackson and Tariq Woolen on Hopkins. I mean, those are going to be some nice matchups.
Those are some. I would put Tariq Woolen on him and let him follow him around. I know the Seahawks aren't going to do that because they like Jackson on one side, where he only his responsibilities never change, right? And it makes it easier for him. But the speed of Tariq Woolen taking on Nuke Hopkins and the size, and they're both big guys and both great, feel for the ball in the air and all. And that's going to be fun. It's going to be fun.
All right. Germany is coming up in a couple weeks.
Yes.
Taking on the now kind of deficient Tampa Bay Buccaneers that have been struggling. Tom Brady's not looked great at all this year.
No.
And nobody really predicted that. I think you did, actually. You predicted that they would kind of fall back down to earth this year.
Yeah, but I still expected them to be good.
Yeah.
Not they're going to fall back
down. Their defense is still pretty good, but their offense is horrible.
Yeah, I expected them to come back to the pack a little bit, but not this. This is far more than I would have predicted. Tom Brady's been genuinely bad.
And they're 1-3 at home. They used to be a great home team. The Falcons actually lead that division now at 4-4. The Buccaneers are at 3-5. On the road, 6:30 a.m. Pacific time start. I think Seattle will probably head out to Germany early in the week.
Yep.
And I don't, you never know what to expect with oddball games like this, where it's, you're completely out of the country. Your start time is weird. Who knows what's going to happen with the Buccaneers? But I think if Seattle just pays attention to themselves, does what, plays within themselves, do what they do really well, I think they win this game. Earlier in the year, I would have said, no way. This is not a game that they're going to win. The Bucs are going to be a strong team, another playoff, year for them. And this is just too much overmatched for Seattle. Now, after knowing what we know about Seattle and knowing what we know about the Buccaneers, this is definitely a winnable game. And I expect to win this game. In fact, I would be very disappointed if we didn't.
Because what weapons do the Buccaneers have that are going to beat Seattle's defense? I mean, they've got some okay players.
Mike Evans, still out there. Chris Godwin, but those guys are kind of diminished, and they're not playing at an extremely high level.
Neither of them is playing at a high level right now. So I don't know. And their offensive line's just been bad. And Tom Brady's been bad. Can you imagine? Do you realize that Tom Brady gave up everything in his personal life to be on that team?
Yeah. That's hard.
Play bad football. It's hard to believe, but I agree. I've got this as a win. It's technically a road game, but it's a road game for both teams because it's in Germany. It's not, in Tampa. And supposedly the Seahawks have a really big following in Germany. So it's
there'll be a lot of fans there.
It might be, more of a home game than an away game for them, which would be kind of awesome.
So if we win, that would be 5 wins in a row, Keith, before we head into the bye.
Mm-hmm. It's 5 wins in a row.
That's crazy. That's crazy. 5 wins in a row, and we would be 7-3. 7-3. Unreal. At 7-3, you really start to think about the playoffs. You start to think about playoff positioning, where you're bye. You might have a bye. Seattle takes you want to win your own division. You've got the 49ers in there. The 49ers schedule looks favorable to them as well. There's maybe a couple games on their schedule that they're going to be not favored to win, even though they're a 4-4 team right now. So it'll be a race to the end. All right. We come back from the bye week. Raiders at Seahawks. Again, this was a team last year who made the playoffs in that last game against the Chargers. Carr looked great. This year they're back down to earth. They just didn't put it together for whatever reason.
I I am amazed at how far this team has regressed given the increase in talent that they've got. And to me, I put it on the coaches. I expected McDaniels, who's been, the guy, he's been the offensive coordinator in New England for a while. He already left once, went to Denver as their head coach, got fired, went back to New England, and went back to being good at his job. And he's had some offers to take over a few times. At one point, it looked like he was going to Indy and changed his mind. So they hired Frank Reich, which turned out to be a good thing for Indy. But now he's here in Vegas, and you'd think that after his experiences and learning along the way, that he would be more prepared. But he kind of doesn't look like it. This team just doesn't come fully prepared to games. They haven't.
Josh Jacobs looks great, but that's
True.
it.
Yeah, where's the rest? What's going on with the rest of the offense? I mean, you went and paid all those draft picks and all that money for Devontae Adams, and where's the return on that? Yeah. I mean, it's talking about a great player. And are you seeing an increase in production of your offense?
And they're healthy. I mean, they haven't really had a lot of players hit IR, and they come in pretty healthy. Right, at least right now on the schedule.
Yeah. So I put that on the coaches, and honestly, at some point, like this is either going to fall apart on them or they're going to put it together. But as of where they stand right now, they're not playing well. They just got shut out.
And they're
0-4
on the road.
They're 0-4 on the road. They just got shut out. Good teams don't get shut out. And
things could change a little bit by the time we play them. But as of right now, I've got to.
As of right now, it's got to be a win.
Yeah. So things start to get pretty interesting for the Seahawks. You win 6 now in a row, and you've come in and you're 8-3. Everyone's talking about you. You're circled on the calendar for every team that comes in and you play. The implications for playoffs are really starting to solidify. Seahawks have gotten to the point where they're extremely confident and cocky, and I don't want to be overly cocky because you got to go into SoFi and play the Rams the following week. The Rams have not played up to expectations this year. I knew that there would be a little bit of a drop off from the Super Bowl
hangover.
There's always a little Super Bowl thing, and they got rid of a few players and didn't really add back in. And Matthew Stafford's struggling this year, and who knows if he's completely healthy.
The lack of the offensive line play has been really poor, and
they've only scored 118 points so far this year.
Yeah,
just to give you an idea, Seahawks have scored 210.
Yeah, the offense has been dreadful, and a lot of it's been the offensive line. The offensive line just isn't good, and they can't run the ball. Even with Cam Akers, there's a point where he was on the trading block, which is crazy to me because he's young and cheap and good. But yeah,
he's also not been able to go every week either. They've held him back. So
that's true. But still, they're just not. They're not getting it done offensively. The defense they've got star power. Still got Aaron Donald, but they lack being good in other places, right? They've got him and Ramsey, and then everyone else.
Bobby Wagner.
Yes, Bobby Wagner.
Come on. I'm going to give him Bobby Wagner.
Bobby Wagner is a huge name who is not performing at the level that we are used to seeing him play at Seattle.
I got a question for you.
What?
Are we going to give Seattle any losses in this upcoming schedule, or is this all going to be wins?
No, because
the Rams are just not that good this year, and I expect the Seahawks to win. They're a better team. They're a better team right now. I expect them to be better down the stretch, especially if we win 6 in a row going into this game. I think this is a knockout punch. And really a statement game for the Seahawks.
What is the strength of the Rams?
Well, their defense is still the strength. They've allowed 154 total points.
Aaron Donald is the strength.
Aaron Donald, absolutely. He's a monster.
And the weakness of Seattle's offense is the interior of the defensive line, especially center.
True.
And
Shane Waldron's going to have an answer for that.
He will have
workarounds.
He will have a game plan for how to mitigate the damage, but nobody stops Aaron Donald.
True. I just don't think he's going to be enough.
I have thought that in the past, and he's proven me wrong.
Are you thinking about putting the Seahawks down for a loss in this one?
I am putting the Seahawks down for a loss in this one.
Holy smokies.
Because, I mean, I'm not going to predict wins for all of them. And this particular game is one where they're on the road. They've had all these wins. Aaron Donald is there, and he makes Blythe and Fuller look like foolish, and things kind of fall apart for Seattle's offense a little bit because of how much of a game wrecker he is in the middle. He is such a unique player. Nobody plays like him. So it isn't something where it's like, oh, well, that's how every team's going to attack Seattle. Well, no, the other teams don't have Aaron Donald, so it doesn't really matter. I think he makes enough plays that the Rams pick up that win, but it's not going to be like a blowout or anything. I'm not saying that. I
just don't think that there's enough there. I think if Seattle wins this game, this ends up being a very special season because I think the road to potentially get to 12 or 13 wins is there, and this is a roadblock and a stepping stone at the same time, because if you get past the Rams, there's an opportunity here to kind of close this thing out, really, if you can get past the 49ers. Now you're going to visit the Chiefs. Now we can talk about that game in a minute, but this is a pretty significant game because it's at the moment in the schedule. You're entering December. You're on the road. You're against a division opponent. And I think that it's going to be a critical game. I think the Seahawks got this. I think the Seahawks are going to get this game.
So you give the Seahawks a win there, and you look at the fact that they will not have lost since the Saints game.
Yeah.
In was that week 4? They were 1-3 to start the year, and then promptly won all those games in a row, and get to the fact that there's 5 games left in the year, and they've won everything since.
That's why it's going to be special.
I guess they were 2-3, not 1-3.
This thing is setting up to be interesting. I'm just, now Seattle could come out. They're still a young team. They're still a team with some unknowns, where they need to put it all together every week to be competitive and to beat teams. And they could definitely have a letdown. There's no question. Again, I'm thinking that this thing's going to keep rolling. I don't know why. I just have a gut feeling. So let's figure this out. Okay, so Panthers come in and visit the Seahawks.
That's a win. I mean, the Panthers are not a good football team. They've kept it close. They've remained competitive. They're playing hard. They just they lack the talent, and they just traded away their best offensive player.
Yeah, and Baker Mayfield got benched. Seattle was all in potentially on that Baker Mayfield thing in the offseason. At least fans wanted him to be.
Oh, fans want him to be. That doesn't make him.
It doesn't necessarily mean, but they there was rumor out there that they had inquired about him. They weren't going to trade for him, not with Cleveland. Compensation just wasn't going to be there, and there was no incentive for Cleveland.
They weren't going to give. Yeah, they weren't going to give up anything for him. But if he got cut, they would think about it.
Yes. But then he goes to the Panthers, and it was just completely not working. I mean, to the fact that PJ Walker is their quarterback. Now that could change, but Baker Mayfield, as of this week, is on the bench.
Yep.
So anyway, bad team. It's a win. This is a great game. Thursday night matchup on Amazon Prime, 49ers at Seahawks, December 15th. Could be a weather game.
I hate Thursday night games.
Oh, this is going to be tough, but at least we were home the week prior. What are you thinking now? This is a game. I mean, the 49ers that beat the crap out of the Seahawks in the second game of the season.
Yeah. But that
things
game,
are changed now completely.
That game was not competitive. The Seahawks were not good on either side of the ball in that game. And now the 49ers have Christian McCaffrey, who's the most talented running back that they've had in San Francisco in a long time. And is he healthy? That's the question. Because Christian McCaffrey can't stay healthy, but when he is healthy, he's great, and when he's not healthy, he doesn't play.
I don't even know if Seattle has an answer for somebody like that. Nobody does, really.
Nobody does.
But the last time we played the Panthers and he was there, the kid still has 125 combined yards and 7 receptions and all that stuff. It still doesn't seem to make a difference in the final score, though. He's just one player, but they do also have Anook. They've got Samuels. They've got a great defense right now. Yeah. So
I say if Christian McCaffrey is healthy, that's a tough game for Seattle, even at home. If he's not, and they're back to not being able to have most of Shanahan's offense in place because they can't run the ball, then I mean, that's the reason why San Francisco is 4-4 right now and not better, because that's a more talented team than a 4-4 record. But when they can't run the ball because they don't have any healthy running backs, their offense is a complete nightmare.
McCaffrey's not so much of a running back as he is a receiver.
He is.
He's kind of like Deebo Samuel in that way. Even Deebo Samuel's a more stout runner and so forth. I just don't know if they're built to last. In fact, right now they're having problems with injuries. Deebo Samuel's on their little weekly injury report. Juwan Jennings, their wide receiver. Kyle Juszczyk, or how do you pronounce his last name? Juszczyk. Their fullback is on the injury report.
It starts with a J. It starts with a J, but it's Juszczyk. Yeah.
Eric Armstead, their tackles on the injury report. Dre Greenlaw is having some issues, And so injuries are a big thing for the 49ers. Seattle is really pretty healthy compared to this club. And who knows down the stretch. At home, though, this is a revenge game if I've ever seen one. I mean, if Seattle's playing as well as I think they're playing, and they get to this game, they're going to give them everything they got. And I think it's too much for the 49ers, actually, at home in Seattle. And so I've got it down as a win. I know it's a hard game, and it's a game you could easily put down as a loss just to get them to a certain number, but I'm not thinking that way. I'm thinking each game on its own terms, and this is a game that I think Seattle wants to win and will win.
I've got this down as a loss. I've got it down as a loss. You've got they've got the big game at the Chiefs coming up. I think that you have some people looking forward. I think that the 49ers come in, they will have started to get a little healthier than they are right now. And they were just too much for Seattle in week 2. And I know things have changed in Seattle, but Seattle's offense has been good in every game except for that one. And in that game, they were just genuinely bad. I think that defense is it's just too much. And I think that it's just a bad matchup for Seattle. The 49ers are going to lose to a team that Seattle's going to beat easily. But I just don't think that it's a good matchup for Seattle this year. And I see it just being one that just doesn't work out for Seattle.
So Seahawks next will travel to Kansas City and face the Chiefs December 24th. Man, that is going to be a bitter cold game.
Kansas City in December.
Yeah.
On Christmas Eve. The NFL was mean to Seattle. Just straight up.
So
Frank Clark revenge game.
I watched the Chiefs dismantle the Arizona Cardinals in person the first week here in the Valley of the Sun, and it was a total shellacking if I've ever seen a game. And Seattle's a completely different team. And at this point in the schedule, but the Chiefs at home, I mean, it's just hard to beat the Chiefs on the road in that environment. So I've got
it's hard to beat the Chiefs. It's hard to beat the Chiefs ever right now because they're just a good roster, top to bottom. They do a lot of things right. They're great at the positions where you want them to be good. They run the ball well. They have, they went from having one elite receiver to having a whole receiver room that is dangerous. I'm sorry, it's another loss. The Chiefs are just too good right now.
They're a complete team.
They really
are. If you go in and you can win against a complete team, this will tell me a lot about the Seahawks and the playoff opportunities that they have this year. I still think they're going to lose.
I think that Kansas City and Buffalo as two teams, they're on another level from the rest of the NFL. This is Georgia at the college ranks versus everybody else. Right, where they're just playing on a different level right now. And I think that Kansas City and Buffalo are those teams. So
you've got it as a loss.
I do have it as a loss.
All right, Jets at the Seahawks.
So if you look, I've got the Seahawks losing 3 out of 4 right there. They had that big win streak followed by, the loss at the Rams. They beat the Panthers. They lose to the 49ers and the Chiefs. And they go into these last 2 games, with a season that could go either way.
So where are they at? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You've got them as 9 wins with 2 games to go.
Yep. 9 wins with 2 games to go. Neither of them particularly easy, but both of them at home. Whereas you've got them with 11 wins at 11 wins. Point.
They're already in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Now they're looking for seeding.
They're looking for seeding. They may have already clinched the division if the 49ers fall off, especially if the Seahawks beat them, which you've predicted. That'll give them, at least a 2-game advantage minimum on the 49ers, who are the second place team on yours. So you're looking at them saying at this point, they've clinched the division.
Yeah.
They're playing for seeding. If the Eagles keep winning, there's no bye.
Right.
So they may not even be playing for seeding.
Correct.
Do you want to be the 2 seed or the 3 seed? It does not
That's what
matter.
it would be. Right. That's what it would be. And for you though, they're fighting.
With me, they're fighting. They're at 9 wins. They're probably a wild card team. If you stick at 9 wins, but you stick at 9 wins and you've lost 5 of your last 6, you're not going anywhere. But they won't stick at 9 wins. Well, just spoiler alert, they're not going to stick at 9 wins. They take on the Jets coming into Seattle at home. The Jets have overperformed this year. They've been far better. They're a well-coached team for the first time in forever.
They're 4-0 currently on the road.
Yeah. They're a good road team. That's the sign of a well-coached team. They also are talent deficient in places. Zach Wilson remains up and down. It's still hard to figure out who he is and what he is. And honestly, the way Seattle's defense is playing, if you can't run the ball and help Zach Wilson out, he's going to struggle. And I've got this as a dominating win for the Seahawks to get to their 10th win and clinch a playoff spot.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I've got them down as a win for me as well because I just think we're a better team. They're well coached, as you mentioned. Zach Wilson's interesting, but I think Seattle's going to be too much for their offensive line. They've got a couple of good defensive backs in Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed, who we're very familiar with. They're playing very well this year.
DJ Reed was one of the best signings of any team this offseason.
I agree.
Free agent pickup didn't cost them, too much. And he's playing. We saw him the last 2 years. He plays at an elite level, and putting him next to Sauce Gardner, and suddenly they've got some cornerbacks that can straight up play. I like them. I like that group.
All right, let's get to the final game and kind of wrap this thing up. Okay, Rams at Seahawks on the last day of the year for the league, January 8th.
Yep.
Could be big implications for the Seahawks as far as seeding, depending on where this shakes out. It's a division game as well. What do you got, Keith?
I've got the Seahawks over like learning from their mistakes the first time against Aaron Donald and figuring out ways to roll the pocket and move him around, move Geno Smith around, and picking up a big needed win to get them to 11 wins. And we'll see what the 49ers do, but I've got Seattle losing to the 49ers twice. So if the 49ers get to 10, Seattle wins the division. If it's 11, then the 49ers take it, but it's going to be close.
Interesting. So you got it as a win. I've got
got
this one as a loss. I end up with 12 wins, and you end up with 11.
So why do you give it a loss? Rams at home.
It's hard to win against the Rams twice, and it's home, and we've secured our seeding at this point with 12 wins. We win the division, I think, by beating the 49ers earlier, and consequently being ahead of them, in the division right now by a game. And so I think there's just excuse me, I didn't have it as a win. I had it as a loss. Consequently, I think it's just a game where we're, maybe playing Geno for a quarter or so, a couple drives, and then resting players and getting out of this thing healthy and getting ready for the playoffs, which is crazy talk to me right now. Mm-hmm. But 12 wins. I went from 5 wins in my first prediction thing that we basically threw away.
Wait. Hold on. There we go.
There it is. Yeah, right.
That was it blowing up again.
Yeah. We went from this to this.
Yeah, from 5 to 12. That's a 7-game swing. That's how wrong we were.
And you and I have been doing this for 6 years, and we have never been further apart. I don't think either one of us has been further apart than 2, if not 1. Game difference between our prediction and the final result. And so we're pretty good at this. I mean, we really are. And you're this close to the team, you just kind of know instinctively how good this roster is going to be, or it's not. And
last year we were off. We both had them with more wins, but we didn't
expect. I think we ended up with 10 or 11 wins, and
we didn't expect the Russell Wilson injury, and we didn't expect him to come back too early and have 3 awful games. There's, they lost 5 of 6 in that stretch, and the season ended. But then they came back and won a bunch of games, and got a little closer. But we were off last year. But we predicted this to be a really long season, and right now it's looking like it's going to be a really fun season. I like the way it works out with yours, because with that win streak, getting by the Rams and the 49ers gets them in a position where they've won the division with a couple games left. And
it's a big ask for this team.
And that Chiefs loss doesn't matter. They go into the final game of the season. Everything's clinched. They've got nothing to play for. They sit everybody. You get all the backups in there. And it doesn't matter.
Is this our reality now? I mean, did we just have a fun exercise and we just had some great times and we just put the boxes in there? Or is this really what we expect now out of this team that started as a 4 or 5 win team, and almost not just our books, but everyone was looking at them as that was the reality? Is now everyone going to be looking at this going, Bill, Keith, you guys are spot on. I mean, this is the way it's going to be.
I think 10 or 11 wins is more realistic, just because young team, they're going to make mistakes. They've had penalty problems at times, which has hurt them. They lost to a team like Atlanta, which is rebuilding. There's going to be head scratchers where you're like, how do you lose that game? It's just part of being a young team. So I think 10 or 11 wins and a wild card berth is probably more likely than 12 wins and an easy division win in the scenario that you have. But honestly, I don't think anything would surprise me at this point. The way the defense has gone from being awful to good, trying to just wrap my head around just how good this defense is.
Mm-hmm.
And not let the first 4 games like skew my brain as to what this defense truly is right now is hard. And we've seen from the offense, other than that first 49er game, they've just been good. They've put up the yards, they've put up the points, been one of the best offenses in the NFL. So, if they're a top 10 defense and a top 10 offense, how are they not a playoff team? Right?
Yes.
So of course they are. And so I don't consider 12 wins like there's no way. And I don't consider 9 wins to be, there's no way they're only ending up with that. I think this team, I don't know if I'd be surprised other than if they just completely fall apart after this and our real prediction ends up being closer to normal. That would surprise me. That would shock me.
Where do you think they could falter if they do in this schedule?
In the schedule, I could see it's the when you have Buccaneers, Raiders, Rams in the middle there, because those are still teams that have a lot of veterans. They've got talented players. They're not playing great football right now, but they're still veteran teams with talented players. And if they falter, it's going to be in that stretch, and that's what's going to end up hurting them. But
that's a tough stretch. I think the other stretch where they could falter is the Final 4. You got the 49ers, the Chiefs, the improving Jets, and then the Rams. You can, Super Bowl champion. You can never count those guys out. I've got them splitting those. You've got them splitting those as well. And you could easily go 1-3 in those, and it could impact your final tally.
But coming into the season, I would have said that the stretch where you've got the Saints, the Cardinals, the Chargers, and the Cardinals. Notice I skipped the Giants, and then the Bucks as being like that.
Yeah, that's rough.
That's a gauntlet that's going to kill any season.
Right.
And the Bucks are left, and they've got they've got 1 loss in that, and that was the Saints, the first game of that set. They haven't lost since then, and there's 1 game left, or there's 2, but but you know what I mean? Like that looked like this gauntlet that was going to just, at that point, the season was over, and they're playing for next year in draft position. And instead they've won 3 straight. They look like the better team for the next 3 weeks. They could turn this into 6 straight and really just kind of blow the top off this season.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yep. Yeah, there's no question. I mean, things get real interesting with this. I just think that it could be a very interesting
can't say you blow the top off the season without.
Yeah, because look at that. I mean, look at it's 5-12. I mean, it's and
ugly. Now you're predicting 12-5,
which is I can't even believe I just did that. But yeah, I did actually.
This is a team that has 3 losses now. You only have them losing 2 games over the rest of the season.
Yeah. Out of the next 10. So I go 8-2 to close out the season.
And the scary thing is I've only got 1 game difference than you. I've got them losing 1 more game.
So you've literally you've got them as 7 more wins than
7-3
previously forecasted.
Wait, right? You have them as 7 more wins. I have them as 6 more wins than previously forecasted.
Yeah, that's nuts. That's crazy.
It really is.
That's a huge differential, and it really does come down to the play of Geno Smith, because we expected the defense to be good in our prediction show. In this prediction show, we expected the defense to be around 10th in the NFL, and then the offense was going to be awful,
mostly because of Geno and the tackles.
Right.
And instead, Gino and the tackles have been not just good.
Yeah.
Saying that they've been good, I think, undersells how well they've played so far. Gino and the tackles have been great.
And having a running back come in and not miss a beat when your starter goes out is something else.
Walker has looked fantastic since being inserted into the starting lineup. He's been
the tight ends have really played well this year.
All three
just
of them.
the whole offense is, and hats off to Shane Waldron. It looks just great, having Gino back there. So, wow, fun show. Thanks, man.
Yeah. Wait, one more time. One more time.
All right, here we go.
We got to blow up our schedule. There we go. Now it's done. All right.
All right. It's funny because before the show, Keith showed me a little video of him in his other life.
Other job.
Blowing something up, and it was hilarious. And I hope to show you all that someday because it is what life is for me. Yeah, and I need to share it.
Watching me blow stuff up.
Yeah, I hadn't laughed so hard for. Yeah, that was great.
Yep. What makes that video is not that it's a cool science thing and it blows up and it's like what's supposed to happen. It's that it goes wrong in a very spectacular way, and it just makes this huge mess everywhere. So it does exactly what I wanted it to, and not at the same time. It was just fantastic.
So, all right. So let's get out of here. We're having a great time, great season. Everyone's having fun. This is the way it should be. This is Seahawks football for sure. You can find Keith at Myers NFL. You can find me at NW Seahawk. You know where the show's at. And just want to make sure you hit the subscribe button. We do 3 shows a week. That way, every time we do one, it automatically shows up in your feed so that you find us each time. So have fun. And we'll see you. The next show is a preview show for the Cardinals, Seahawks at Cardinals. So until then, take care and go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Seahawks Playbook podcast listeners, thanks for joining us for another edition of the show. You can find us on Twitter. Bill is at NW Seahawk. Keith is at Myers NFL. And the show is at Hawks Playbook. You can listen and subscribe to the show at SeahawksPlaybook.com.